Okay, YouTube, here is our next plan of attack on the project. We're currently fitting the Crossrail to the trunk pan. Here is the original Crossrail that I took out of the car. And it's in pretty good shape. Not too bad. And I went round and round whether or not to reinstall this part or to install the reproduction piece. This one was going to need some work. Everywhere that I've kind of highlighted it with the tape is areas that it needed some work. It did fit a little bit better, and right now at this time I think I'm going to go ahead and continue on with fitting this reproduction. The reproduction is fitting okay. I am having a few fitment issues, and I'll show you all that. One thing that I'm having trouble with is not enough clamps. It really takes a lot of clamps. And I went out to the store last night, picked up a few extras. Should be able to clamp that thing down now. I really like these. These are the 9 SPs, and they have a pretty wide depth on them that you can reach into. I really like those. One of the areas that I'm having some fitment issues is right here in this area right there, and that is where the Crossrail comes around to the very back of the trunk pan, and you can see there I've got a pretty good gap. Even once it's pulled in, that gap doesn't really want to go away, and that metal right there is not going anywhere. The first thing that I did is pretty much fit the bottom of it to all the flanges. There is the left and right frame rail that it welds to, and there's also the left and right gas tank braces that it welds to. So I worked on those flanges, and I haven't got them 100% yet, but I have worked on them, and I've got this Crossrail fitting pretty good to those flanges. It's at least weldable in its current state, I do believe, but we do have that gap to contend with. And started fitting this side, and like I said, I needed more clamps, but I've got this pretty close to what I remember the original was, and we'll look back at some of my reference pictures and everything. Now I've worked on the fitment right in this area where it hugs the trunk pan just a little bit better, and like I said, I needed some more clamps. So this is not 100% yet, but let's take a look at the back side of it. Okay, here we are looking at the back side, and you can see there I've got my flanges pretty close. Just got one clamp on them, both down there at the bottom, and I actually don't have any clamps on the frame rails at this point. But you can see it's pretty close. And here's what I did to get that front area looking a little bit better. I don't know how much of this you guys will be able to see just because of this clamp in the way, but I was having trouble in this area right here. The trunk pan was hitting a little bit right in this area here. I could tell that it was almost like I needed to dent the trunk pan in to clearance this area. But what I elected to do, since I wanted to close this in, is I actually just split the panel all the way up to about right there. And then I pulled it in and took a body hammer and tapped this area out. And now what I'm going to do is I've made a reference mark here, and I've made a reference mark here. And I'll take this panel back off and I'll run me a piece of tape from these two marks and I'll trim this. And then what I'll do is test fit it again. And once I get this excess metal out here, this ought to come pretty close to being able to be tack welded together, and it ought to line up better. Right now this piece here is sitting a little higher than this piece. But that's kind of where I'm at right now on this side. And of course we'll probably wind up having to do the same thing on the other side. But I couldn't really go any further till I went and got some more clamps. It's really going to take a lot on this Crossrail to get it all clamped down and everything. I like to clamp everything in place and make sure I like it before I even fire the welder up. Okay guys, I've got the Crossrail loaded up in the vise here. And I've got me a piece of tape here that represents my line, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that. I think I'm going to use the Dremel tool. Can't really get in here too well, so, and it's just such a small piece, I'm going to use the Dremel cutoff wheels like I've used before, like I showed you. So that's what we're doing. Okay guys, I have got this excess metal ground out, and I put some tacks in it, and I lightly ground those tacks down, just straighten the metal back out. I tell you, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it by myself. I was trying to push this piece here in, trying to hold it, trying to get the two edges of the metal perfectly in alignment, and then had the welding torch in this hand, and I was shaky with one hand trying to go in there, and I actually had one tack that wasn't even in the right spot. Let's take a look. It was real tight in this area here. I mean, it was actually touching, and it was just the I just didn't grind enough off of the metal. This is a little bit more of a gap than I would like, but at the point that I was at, what I wound up doing is I just took this Dremel tool with that real thin blade and just opened that gap up just a little bit. This one here, it's okay right there, but I find that I gotta have just a little bit of gap, because if I don't, the metal bunches up and I can't get it smoothed out when I go to do my hammer and dolly. The metal shrunk pretty good right there. But we're gonna go ahead and clean up the workbench here and see if we can't test fit it and see how it's going to do. Okay guys, fitting this Crossrail to the trunk pan, and this is one difficult piece. You'd think it wouldn't be too bad, but it has a lot of places that it has to mate up to. So here's what we got. There's the area that we've tucked in just a little bit with that relief cut that we made. And I believe it's looking a lot better. I do have it clamped right here. Let's pull this up to the trunk. It could probably use another clamp right there. That's looking pretty decent. This over here on the other side, there's what it looks like right there. It fits real nice right here. It doesn't fit that nice on this side right there. And I've made me a little mark. I'm gonna go ahead and make a relief cut here. The other thing that I'm a little concerned about is where it meets up with these corners. Now granted, this ain't clamped here, but still yet, I mean, that's a pretty good gap there. I mean, it's gonna pull in some. Let's look at the other side. It is clamped. And I believe the original wasn't much different. I believe that just gets a swipe of seam sealer. I've had to pull this in so much that I've actually put some dents in the panel. Of course, the tail pan's gonna cover it all, but still yet, you don't want to be denting brand new sheet metal. But that's the way that's looking where we did that relief cut. Now this is the area that you will see from underneath the car. The tail pan will come down and actually weld to this flange here. But all the flanges are looking good. Well guys, I believe that's going to do it for tonight. We still got a lot of work to do on this. We'll talk to you later. Okay, YouTube. I decided to go ahead and leave the Crossrail in place on the vehicle, and we still had to make the cut on this side just like we did over there on the passenger side. And I didn't really want to remove it at this time because I've kind of already got that side fitted and I wanted to fit this one. Got to noticing I had a little gap in there, so I decided to go ahead and cut it while it was on the car. And barely did knock the paint off the trunk pan right there, but that ain't no big deal. We'll fix that. I actually think this side actually turned out a little bit better than the other side. I didn't have to cut this side as much as well because right in this area the trunk pan actually fit it really good. And I've got this pulled pretty tight, probably as tight as I'm going to be able to get it. There's still going to be just a little bit of a gap right there, but not bad. I've been looking at some factory pictures as well and some other restorations. So I'm thinking what I'll do is actually, I may end up slicing this piece here, letting it hug the trunk pan, and we'll put a filler piece in there. That's kind of what I was thinking about over there on that other side as well. I'm not real sure yet on that, so it's just a little bit more work. These ends aren't really clamped down. Most all my clamps are being used right here in the center right now. I don't know, they're pretty close. This one's not really clamped right there, but it ain't gonna move much. So I think the next step is to go ahead and mark my flanges, and I'll probably drill me a couple holes in it for some screws for alignment holes while it's all clamped the way it is. And that way I can get it pretty much back in the same position. I'm going to put some reference marks on it. I'm also going to mark on the outside where I want to put my plug welds at. I have pretty much done my rough fit in on this Crossrail and went ahead and put 2 sheet metal screws down there in the bottom flange area for basically alignment, and actually put one nice dent in it right in this area, but I was able to work that out. I think it's where I was trying to pull this down tight and I had everything clamped up here. But I've got all my plug welds marked. I've marked the flange areas with tape in the back, and I went ahead and put where I wanted drill my holes and measurements on where to drill them. Normally I would just take a scribe and scribe this out, but this panel's already in epoxy, and I still could have done that, but I just went ahead and used tape just to keep from scratching up the epoxy. It's going to get repainted anyway, but I just decided to use the tape this time. Pretty much sliced and diced it all that I could. I did go ahead and cut this end piece here to try to get it to fit the trunk pan a little bit better, and I didn't like it, so wound up welding it back just like it was. It's kind of one of those things I wish I hadn't even messed with on that part, but we got it back. And I drilled a couple test holes and refitted it before I drilled all of these. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't too close near the edge of the flange that I'm going to be welding to. And I did make an adjustment on these. I brought these over just a little bit. This is pretty close to the edge. So I'm going to be working on drilling the rest of these holes. I'll drill these on the front. I'll be working on prepping this pan for welding. I'm also going to go ahead and stitch this up, and same thing on that other side. And then we're going to go ahead and epoxy this, and I may run some seam sealer right in this area as well. I'm pretty sure, well, right here will be the only plug welds I have to put in. It'll be a little close. I'll just probably have to be careful on this one. I don't want to get it too hot and catch that stuff on fire. That's probably going to take me a few evenings to get this done. I've got some other things going on here in the garage too that's not Camaro related. It's daily driver stuff that I got to get done as well. So that's probably where I'm going to cut this video off at. This will be mocking up the Crossrail. And then the next video, we'll probably just title it Crossrail Installation. And I'll bring you back the next video. We should have this all welded up, welds ground down, and we'll have our epoxy and seam sealer on, and we'll be ready to final fit it to the car. So just want to say I appreciate all my subscribers and everybody following the channel. I appreciate all the comments. I read them all, and I try my best to respond to them all. I hope I can continue to do that. When I get some more updates on the progress of the Camaro, I'll be back online. Thank you guys.